Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about and doing a little bit of stretch break. My name is Marlene. I'm a certified personal trainer, health coach, and certified in functional movement. And today is all about stretching. So, quick anatomy lesson just to get started. And this will not just be a PowerPoint. This is just real quick, and then we'll move into some stretches. So, if you want to take a moment to get a mat set up or clear a little space to follow along, you're welcome to do that. So quick anatomy lesson. Our body's made up of our skeleton, and those bones are all connected at joints, ankles, hips, knees, etc. Muscles attached to the bone with tendons and ligaments, and then all of that is then covered by this really thick, dense connective tissue called fascia that surrounds and supports all of your body structures. And when we contract a muscle, all of these structures have to work together to move the body. So stretching in general is meant to lengthen the muscle tissue and increase flexibility. And when you stretch regularly and increase your flexibility, that helps to improve your muscular balance. It allows for greater range of motion around the joints. And basically, it will improve your overall mobility and your muscular strength and function. And the human body is really designed for movement. We take it for granted, but it takes so much to move. And when we have dysfunction going on in one area, it can affect how we move, and how we move then affects how our muscles respond and our flexibility responds and our mobility responds. So it's all interrelated, but we're really designed to move. And unfortunately, the way we live our lives these days, it often means that we're not getting enough movement. One of my favorite little quotations, motion is lotion, rest is rust, used to be up on the wall of a senior center that I would work in. And it's so true. You know, you wake up in the morning after having laid flat all night and whatever. A lot of times you wake up, you're a little stiff, but as you start to move around, you feel better. And that motion is lotion. And we don't move enough. 12 hours a day is the average that most people are sitting now or sedentary in some way. It's the fourth leading risk factor for mortality, being physically inactive. And, it's just a cascading effect. It's unfortunate, but there's a lot that goes on when we aren't moving enough. Our muscles will adapt to that inactivity. And it's really not just about your musculoskeletal system. When we're inactive or sedentary or sitting for too long, our respiratory system is affected, because when we're in that hunched position, as you can see, our little skeleton here is when we're in front of a computer, you're shallow breathing. It's hard to get a real deep breath. So you're tight, but you're also shallow breathing. You can see how your neck and shoulders would be affected by that. Our circulatory system is affected, cold hands and feet sometimes. Your digestive system, in that slack movement, you're not digesting your food properly, and even metabolism is affected, because we're not taking up using the sugar, free floating sugars and things in our system the way we should be. So our metabolism is affected. So really, there's a lot that goes on when we are sedentary, and a good stretching regime can go a long way towards helping with a lot of these issues. So when we talk about stretching, there's a lot of good results from it. Lower the health risks, as we mentioned. Your energy is improved when you move around more, and when you stretch and you're more flexible. Improved mood, again, the metabolism's better, your musculoskeletal health, your posture in general, and in the long run, you feel better and you're more productive. And there are different kinds of stretching. We're going to do some stretching today. Different types of stretching, just quick. Static stretching is what most people think of when it's when you for instance, lay on your back and you lift your leg up to stretch your hamstrings, and you might hold that stretch for 20 seconds to 60 seconds. And that's about getting lengthening into the muscle. And it's really what you want to be doing at the end of a workout. You want to be doing your static stretching. Active isolated stretching is more what we're going to be talking about today. And it's almost more about mobility than flexibility. They're sort of the same thing, but it's slow, controlled movements that you'd hold for, 10 seconds or less, and then you would relax and then repeat that same motion. It's really a great thing to do throughout the day to incorporate more movement and stretching into your day, or even great before a workout. So I am going to stop the share here and we're going to go live. Welcome to my little office here. The nice thing about stretching, and I think as much as we all know we should be doing more of it, it's easy to do because you don't need a lot of space, you don't need a lot of equipment, you just need a soft place to sit down and your body. So a couple things first, two to three things I want to go over. First of all is proper posture, right? So if you're standing in postural alignment, you want shoulder over hip, over knee, over ankle. And particularly in your upper body, you want your ear to be over your shoulder and your chin would be parallel to the floor. Because we're in this position so often, we tend to end up being kind of turned in and our head is forward. And really, for every inch forward that your ears are from your shoulder, it's like carrying a 10-pound weight around your neck. So you wonder when you get those really tight trapezius muscles and tight neck and even headaches. A lot of that's from being in this forward position. And you can see your shoulder turns in. It's hard to get a really good deep breath. So some of the things you want to do is just to align your posture, stand up regularly throughout the day and think about that. We're not just pulling our shoulders back, but we're also putting your chin back and getting that ear aligned over your shoulder. So first things first, I just want to talk a little bit about your desk setup, because that's really kind of one of the first things. When you sit at your desk chair, you want to just make sure that you're set up so that, you want your hips a little bit higher than your feet on the floor. Stay back here so you can see. You want to be upright in your chair, which means you want to set up so that your keyboard is comfortable here so that you're not up here trying to keyboard. And I know a lot of us are working at home and it's very tempting to take your laptop and lay down on the couch and do this, but that too is not going to be real helpful. And you want your screen to be at eye level. I don't know if you can see it here, but I have mine on an elevated holder, because that in and of itself is going to help you have a little bit less musculoskeletal pain. So that's the first thing that we want to talk about here. So you're sitting all day at your desk. There are a couple different things that happen. As we said, you're in this forward tilt position. So head and neck, shoulders, things like that take a lot of strain. I highly recommend that maybe you set up a timer at your desk where every couple of hours you get up and move around a little bit. So you don't want to go into flexion with cold muscles. So you get up, maybe walk around the house, the office, wherever you are for a little bit, get that blood pumping. So starting with our neck, and if you have any issues with being dizzy, whatever, you can do this one seated. Basically it's just about getting some stretch through the sides of your neck. So if you have a chair, you can reach underneath and hold and just pull that head down so that you're stretching ear towards your shoulder. Now you might not get that far, but wherever you start to feel that stretch and just pulling from under the seat extends that down. And then you want to go to the other side. Same thing, down. You can go forward. And we're just holding these stretches for a few seconds at a time and moving through them. So just sliding away from your computer every now and then and doing a few stretches around your neck will, go a long way towards helping with some of that neck pain that we all feel. And the other thing we mentioned is that when you're in that forward tilt position, your chest is a little bit compressed. I'm just gonna move you up here just a little bit so we can see better. Our chest is compressed, right? So we got all that shallow breathing and our shoulders are in. So basically, you just want to link your hands together behind your back and just pull down. Roll the shoulder up and down and take some good deep breaths to really open up the chest through here. You can also do that by holding on to the edge of a doorway or your desk and stepping away from the surface and just getting a nice deep, deep stretch in through the front of your chest. So we've got our neck, our chest, again, shoulders. You want to get up from the desk. And if you've been in this position, you might be looking like this when you get up. Roll those shoulders up and down, push your hands towards the floor. You want to be looking at the thumbs, not the back of your hands. If you're looking at the back of your hands, it means your shoulders are rotated inward. If you're looking at your palms, they're rotated too far out. So you want to be neutral. Roll those shoulders down and back and make sure that chin is level and ears are over shoulders. And just roll through and get some movement up into your shoulders and hold that stretch a little bit. For our back, when you're moved over, your T-spine or thoracic spine, which is really from about the base of your neck to the bottom of your ribs, can be all tightened up through here. So we want to make sure that we're loosening that up. And again, you can do what we call book openers, where you stand against a wall and rotate back. Have your hand follow. And just rotate back, get some movement, keeping your hips forward into the spine on both sides. Just some simple movements, honestly, that you can do anywhere that will go a long way towards helping with some of the musculoskeletal pain that we feel. Side body stretches, want to loosen things up, maybe just little stretching side to side, get that spine mobilized. And then stretching for your back, interlace your fingers in the front and push out and arch that back and get a nice deep stretch through your lats and your mid back. So all of those stretches might take you no more than 5 minutes, do 5 to 10 of each. And that's going to do a long way towards helping with some of your upper body tension and tightness. Now, as we move further down, as I mentioned, when you sit, your spine is compressed. And when you get up in the morning, sometimes you feel that even if you've been laying down. Synovial fluid is what moves around the joints and keeps them moving easy. And when you're stagnant or stationary, sedentary for a long time, it isn't moving, lubricating. So, just that little bit of side to side twisting. I want to stand in an athletic position with a slight pelvic tilt, soft knee, keeping my hips straight and just rotating my upper body side to side. You always want to rotate, stretch, or flex to the point where you feel it, but you don't feel pain. When you're stretching and you're grimacing through the whole thing and it's really painful, you're going further than your range of motion allows for. So keep it within a comfortable range of motion. So that some upper body stretches. The other thing, our hands and our forearms can get very tight, and you can have a lot of issues with that, with all keyboarding, whatever. So for your hands, just getting a little wrist stretch in where you pull back and then come down. You'll feel that also all the way up through your forearm. So allowing for a little bit of stretching for your wrists, where you come up and then drop down. And then just opening and closing, getting those fingers moving because they're working all day long. So wrist circles, opening and closing, flex and extend for your wrist. Now, as we move down to our lower body, muscular imbalance is a big issue. And for every muscle, we have an opposing muscle. So when you're in a seated position for a long time, the hip flexor muscle in the front is contracted. It's in a tightened stage. And the big group of muscles that we sit on, our glutes, are in a lengthen stage. So oftentimes you go to stand up, if you've been sitting in the car, sitting at your desk, sitting for a long time, you'll feel a little pain or tug through here. That's because this muscle, we're asking it to extend and these muscles to contract at the same time. And if you've been sitting for a very long time, think about like an elastic band that's been stretched out for a long time. It doesn't necessarily contract as strongly as it should. So we want to make sure that you're getting some stretching in through your hips. So hip flexor stretch, you're just gonna take a stagger your stance. I'll do it this way so you can see better. One forward, one back. And I'm just gonna bend down here and tuck my tailbone under here, and you'll feel a stretch come all the way up. And you could extend that by lifting up and holding up. Couple of good deep cleansing breaths. Hold that stretch for a little bit and breathe out on both sides. Again, just getting up from your desk, tuck the tailbone, and doing these a few times a day will go a long way towards helping with some of that pain. So hip flexors is really important to stretch. Meanwhile, your glutes, you've been sitting on a couple different stretches for those. Basic figure 4 stretch for your hip. Cross one leg over the other and on the edge of my seat here. And you'll start to feel a little stretch already through here. And what you want to do to extend that stretch is hinge from the hips forward. I don't want to fall forward. I want to hinge forward. And as you hinge forward, you'll feel that stretch even more through the hip. Inhale and exhale. Nice deep cleansing breath. Hold that one a little bit. Release. And then you go back again. Oftentimes you'll get a little deeper into the stretch as you repeat it 2-3 times. Same thing here, stretching in. So that's my figure 4 stretch that you're going to feel on the outside of your hips. Let me see where we're at. So the other part, the muscles when we're seated, our quadricep, front of your leg is extended, hamstrings are tightened. So we often have chronically tightened hamstrings. You can do this seated or standing, but basically to stretch your hamstring, you just want to bring that one foot forward and lean back into it to stretch out that hamstring. Hold that stretch, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, you'll feel that. Go to the other side. Hamstrings are chronically tight for a lot of people. Particularly important to make sure you stretch those before you get really active, like a jog or a run. Front of your leg, the stretch, simple quadricep stretch, just reach back, hold on, grab your ankle, and then you want to push that hip forward a little bit. You'll feel that stretch all up through the front of your leg or your quadricep. So we've got that one here. And then back on the other side. So we've moved our way down. Your feet are also another area that takes a lot of abuse if you're out running, walking, trying to get your steps in, which is good for you. So one of the things I like to do for my feet is just ankle rolls where you're doing a lot of just movement through the ankle. And then at the end of the day, a tennis ball, to roll on the bottom of your feet. That's really helpful in helping those stretches. So those are just some basic stretches that you can do at your desk. Stretching your side body, a full body back stretch. Just come on down here. You'll feel that all the way from the hamstrings to the lats in the back. But just getting up and getting some stretching in throughout the course of the day. Easy peasy stretches, hanging on to them for 5 to 10 seconds a day. So those are things you can do throughout the course of the day. In the morning, if you wake up really stiff, and I know I do, and I find that these really start to help. There are some morning mobility stretches that I recommend as well. So I'm just going to take that down on the floor. If you've done yoga, you're probably familiar with these. Really great way to get some movement through your spine. It's called cat-cows or cat-camels. So basically, I'm going to have my hands right under my shoulders, knees right under my hips. I'm going to inhale and come way up into an arched back. Pull that up as high as I can get. And then exhale as I reverse it, go almost into a sway back. So cat cows, cat camels, you want to think about moving so that it's almost as though each vertebrae is moving independently, one at a time, as you come up and down. And that's going to really be helpful in loosening up all through your back. If you have some lower back pain, it's helpful with that as well. So cat cows, cat camels. The other thing we talked about was your upper body, that T-spine getting really tight from a lot of forward movement. This one is really helpful in that. You're staying down and it's threading the needle. So from this position, I'm going to take my arm and come through and reach through and push back. And you're going to feel that stretch across your back and back of your shoulders. So threading the needle here as I come back and through on both sides and get a stretch through there. So I'll go from cat cows into threading the needle. If I want to add more movement, I'll do some cross body rotations just to get some more movement into the mid spine. The hip flexor and glute issue and hamstring issue from a 90-90 position. This is the Spider-Man stretch, or sometimes called the greatest stretch. You want to take that one that we did standing where we leaned into the desk. You can take that down onto your knees, tuck your tailbone as you lean forward. Feel that stretch come all the way up through the hip flexor. Extend it by reaching up and over. Inhale, exhale, hold that. And from there, I'm going to take it back and come down and stretch the opposite leg, the hamstring. So this little flow, I like to go through a few times on each side. So again, you're in a 90-90 position. Tuck your tailbone under, lean forward, reach up and over, and then come back. Stretch the hamstring. And you may have, this may be as far as you go for that hamstring stretch. I have better hamstring mobility on one side than the other. So it's something I should be doing much more frequently. So from there, we're going to go into the stretch for your back and your sides. So I'm going to go from this little child pose here and feel that stretch all along your side body and into your glutes a little bit there, and then come up into a cobra, stretch from your abs and your hips. Inhale, come back. You also get a little movement into your shoulders as you're doing this, as you're rotating back and forth, and the shoulder joint is getting some mobilizing through that. And forward. So we've got some exercises. Those are things that I would recommend that you do maybe in the morning when you wake up, even at the end of the day, if you have had a long day at the desk or you've had to drive home and it's been a long stretch coming home. Those are things that I would add into your day. Probably takes, again, no more than 5 minutes, but will go a long way towards helping to keep your musculoskeletal system healthy throughout the course of your life there. We've got a few more minutes. So as a couple of things, these aren't necessarily considered stretching but really important to add in. As we mentioned, when we're sitting for a long period of time, those glute muscles, which are really important muscle group. First of all, they're big muscles, so they're really, you want them to be engaged and activated so that it helps you move throughout the course of your day for your sports, even just basic life. And so when we're sitting all day, there is something, a sleepy glute syndrome. Basically, the glutes get a little tired and they don't fire the way we want them to. So a couple of exercises that I always like to add into that morning routine of stretching and mobilizing are some glute exercises to wake them up and activate them. So these are pretty easy and you can do them throughout the course of the day as well, just to wake things up. So you're laying on your back and I'm just going to do a basic bridge here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to engage the glutes, squeeze and lift, thinking about the bottom of my rib cage coming close to my hip bones at the top and squeezing through here, drop down, hold that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, squeeze and drop down. So probably 10 or so of these at a time to really wake up the glutes. The other one that I like to do to really engage and wake them up is our bird dog, where basically I'm going to come opposite arm and leg and extend. So I'm getting a full extension through my body, across my body, and really tightening the glute in order to lift up here and get that movement. So that's another strengthener. And finally, for what we call the medial glute or inside, stacking your legs at 90 degrees, feet are stacked, and basic clamshell. So I'm going to lift the top leg and bring it back down and lift and bring it down. So that muscle deep in the center gets a little activated and wakes up a bit. So few exercises that not necessarily stretches, but are really important for maintaining your flexibility, because when one muscle group is underactive and the other one is overactive, we get the tension between the two that causes a lot of muscular dysfunction. And flexibility alone sometimes isn't going to be enough to improve that. So you have to strengthen the sleepy muscle and make sure that your muscles are balanced and working in balance with each other. So those are exercises. Again, I might do the morning, a little bit of stretching and some strengthening for inactive muscles. And then throughout the course of the day, maybe set a timer. So every, couple of hours, you remind yourself, coffee break time, go for a little walk, warm up a bit, and then, think it from the top down, some neck stretches, shoulder rolls, front, back stretch, and behind you for a chest stretch, a little bit of standing hip flexor stretch on either side, even dropping in and just getting a nice long stretch through the whole back side of your body. Pretty easy, might take you 5 minutes or less, and you add that into your daily routine a few times here and there, and it'll go a long way towards helping you maintain a healthy and happy musculoskeletal system. So let's see, we got a couple of minutes here, and I just want to see if anybody has any questions. I'm going to open up a chat box. And you're welcome to pop them in the chat box. I will stop the recording.